Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs or at Justin Bizzarro. That's Bizzarro. Again, two Z's, two R's. And you can also find our growing community of food and beverage entrepreneurs on Gorilla Brave. On there also, you'll find all the educational tidbits and stuff that everyone's been asking for. And you can find everything that sort of filters the episodes, 28 years of experience, academics, trends, everything that's going on, food safety, all of it is all put on there for you guys as well. And then there are the networking events and summits that some of you have already been to as we test them in 2024 and in 2023 to have the model that we have now that we'll be launching this year starting in April. So thank you. I have a very special guest with us, Mark Riggs. How are you doing today, Mark?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark's here representing Sous Chef. Some of you may remember him from FitTrax. So Mark is going through a transition in business. So a lot of things moving production facilities, moving branding. So it's a good time to catch up with Mark right now on all of this. So I think one of the things I want to let Mark do is sort of catch everyone up. Those of you who haven't listened to his previous episodes, they're worth going back. It's under FitTrax, under Mark Riggs. If not, we'll give you a quick, brief update now, and you guys can go get more updates later by listening to the episode. So, Mark, it's all yours.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. So it's been quite the journey since we last spoke, which is when we kind of started off in our building our USDA platform to where we could supply, kind of just do wholesale programs with food, and which entails, supplying grocery stores, wholesalers, other food manufacturers, such as hospitals, other, cafeterias, tech companies, and then pretty much all your grocery store chains. And within that, it's just like the growth model that me and my partner have really kind of like along the way have kind of learned a lot of lessons, but also kind of navigated and kind of seen, the trends and, what's attracted to people, what's not, and kind of really how to brand and kind of be attractive to a lot of people. And one thing we found was in doing all of this, that the FitTrax brand was not as appealing, because it was really, when I started it, I was heavy on CrossFit, the fitness realm. And, this was my kind of introduction into, meal preps, online food sales direct to consumer, and kind of building like large scale productions, which then morphed into the wholesaling USDA side. And now is kind of the attraction is, a brand that we started during all of this was called Sous Chef, which was kind of like your ready to eat meals, individually packaged that you can find at grocery stores, which entails like beef stroganoff, comfort foods, beef stroganoff, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, spaghetti meatballs, and then kind of just getting creative with other ethnic foods like tikka masala with rice and, butter chicken, Thai dishes. And so we found that was a lot more attractive to a bigger consumer, or like bigger, network of people and potential clientele. And so what we did was we decided to rebrand FitTrax as Sous Chef, which is now, you can go online, souschef.usa.com, and all of our ready-to-eat meals, family-sized meals, you can buy it, and we ship it frozen, 2-day shipping, pretty much nationwide. We have a heavy focus. We're located just south of Seattle, Washington, and we do pretty heavy focus in Washington, but we do have capabilities of shipping out of state. And kind of as the business kind of keeps growing, and we're playing catch up and how to make all these different brands live within one, was we had to then create basically a corporation umbrella company called Catalyst Foods, which is our main operating system is Catalyst Foods, and then the brands of our Sous Chef brand, which is our direct to consumer. We have our pizza, which is actually a pinza, Pinsa, which is a Roman style dough. It's called Pinza Italia. That's our own in-house brand. Our kind of our pizza program, fresh pizza program. And then we have, the Catalyst slash Sous Chef brand for the wholesaling and USDA division. And that's where we see, a lot of the massive volume growth happening, supplying grocery stores. And as this next, Q1, Q2 kind of kick in, we're going to see, the market kind of grab onto healthcare facilities such as senior living centers, hospitals, including, more like of the airport clientele, and then pretty much expanding with the current grocery stores that we have, and then into their sister and brother brands that they all own as well. So kind of, get one customer, treat them the best, continue that customer service, that relationship, keep bonding, showing them samples, and then letting them see our potential and what we can do. And then now they're starting to come to us and really ask us, hey, can you cook all of our meatballs? Can you cook all of our meatloaf? Can you do all of our chicken in-house? And so that's really, and then, you start with one brand and then it goes into, hey, can you do it for our other sister stores? There's 16 of those locations. Yeah. Okay. What does that entail? How much growth is that going to do? What equipment do we need? Staffing, production schedule. So it's really just this monster growth phase that we're in right now, and keeping up with it and building our teams. And so it's been quite the journey since our last conversation, Justin. But it's really exciting as an entrepreneur to kind of see these things grow, and kind of like, as myself included in my personal self-development, but also as a leader and business owner, and now I'm a husband to my beautiful wife, Cami Jo, and doing everything that we're doing on our personal side too, our personal goals and couple goals and stuff like that too. So, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. There's like three major things here for Mark. Okay, Mark is chef. He decides he's going to be an entrepreneur. He gets an idea. He starts building these meals for athletes, gyms. I'm going to call athletes. I'm not talking about the professional type. I'm talking about the one that lives in each and every one of us. Shall we choose to chisel him out? And that being said, Mark develops this concept. Then Mark knows he needs mentorship and growth. He joins a group, gets mentorship and growth. I meet Mark. Mark's like, what do I do? I'm like, well, this is your model, but you're only covering part of it. And so we talk about USDA. Then that gets him into business partnerships. That gets him rethinking about his business. There's the catalyst there. Then Mark finds a business partner because he needs one at the time to help him grow his business and grow this USDA thing. Now that he finds a business partner and spends a lot of time building that relationship and getting to know the human, and then starting what is Catalyst. Was it Catalyst Foods? I missed the ending part of it. But anyway, those are important things for the audience to anchor. Mark, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Just sort of this purpose and choice and growth and taking risks, knowing that they are risks, but they're necessary for your business to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good summary. I kind of learned, like you mentioned, like I'm a chef by trade, went to culinary school, started washing dishes at 15. Bounced around through all the different restaurants, from, just flipping burgers at a pub to, Michelin star restaurants in Chicago, to hotels, large catering outfits. And kind of, I always knew something was just, it kind of always ticked me, that I always knew I wanted to be my own boss, wanted to do my own thing. And I think that kind of stems from, watching my dad venture off and do that, but also just having the, wanting to be that guy in the family that build something big, is kind of like he does it. He did it, and so, and then, grew up with, two parents who are, are still married, four brothers. We were taught good work ethics and loyalty and, being honorable and just doing a good job always and being fair with everything you do. And so I feel like those, life lessons have kind of built me into the man I am today and allowed me to be comfortable with stepping through the doors of the unknown and really kind of take the risks of, the first big one was, starting my own little catering kitchen out of my parents' garage. And, then that kind of got a little bit busier to where then I had to rent a kitchen. And then I'm cooking and renting out of a kitchen, working my, 9 to 5 job, which in restaurants is really not 9 to 5. It's more of like 12 in an afternoon to 1 or 2 a.m. And then from there I would go and cook and do catering events on the weekends and stuff like that. And then the risk of, hey, I'm going to start this FitTrax brand where I'm taking, our fall off scrap product from catering, cooking to, where I would take, like scrap beef and make bolognese out of it and then do, bolognese and rigatoni as a meal to, really knocking on doors and kind of being the salesman, more so not just kind of letting which is a whole nother like scary feeling of, knocking on someone's door, trying to sell them a product that they don't even know about, let alone know me. You know, and that was where, kind of working with businesses, gyms and stuff like that. And then, building those relationships, nurturing those relationships and like learning like what that really entails and what that takes. And a lot of self-development, I kind of felt myself following, some mentors as well. And that's where me and Justin met in the Arte Syndicate group ran by Andy Frisella and Ed Milet. And that's, huge personal growth, leadership growth, like, and kind of learning that side of, what I thought it really took, but then, following their footsteps and their coaching and teachings and meeting people and like being like, oh, wow, like this is a much bigger role and bigger responsibility than you thought. And you're like, okay, I got to step up again, and then with every little growth phase that we go through, I got to step it up again. I got to step it up again and, challenge myself to do a little bit more every day, challenge myself to be, a little bit better here, a little bit better here. And where do I need to improve? And which is not easy. I'm not successful by any means every day. I have my losses, I have my ups and downs, kind of learning that as long as I can win a majority of the time, more than 50% of the time I'm winning. And as long as I'm winning, I know I'm doing something right, and both in business and personal. And so that's, as an entrepreneur, kind of learning this path. And, as I brought on a partner who is well traversed in the entrepreneurial food businesses, he's very veteran in that. He has, built and exited several businesses, and having our goals really aligned and our core values, which is something that was really important. And in the beginning, and now like us teaming up together was another challenge in itself, and working together and really making this, working as a team more so, which is almost like it's a second marriage. And so those have its challenges as well. And, we've been able to make it work and be a success. And, we have our visions and our goals that we are keeping on track. And, which is really cool to kind of see two people with that mindset really take off and go.
Lessons, hardest things learned. Let's reflect a little bit as you've gone over. I mean, it's been almost 2 years since we last talked on the show, for sure. Talk about last 2 years. There's a lot of personal things that happen. There's a lot of transitions in the business. There's now a marriage in the business also with a business partner. It is like a second marriage. I agree. Transitions in you, growth in you. If you really reflect back on who Mark was before the last time I was in Seattle with you versus who Mark is now, there is a difference. I think it's important if the audience goes back and listens to the cadence in Mark's voice alone and his emotions and his certainty, confidence. But anyway, Mark, go ahead. What is the last 2 years?
Yeah, those are good questions. I think, it's with there being so many, trying to pick one or two is really hard. I would say probably one of the biggest lessons and challenges that I've, you know, faced and still probably working on navigating is, meeting my wife, and, from dating her, when FitTrax was still had its legs during COVID, and to growing our relationship within both of our businesses. She's an entrepreneur as well. And so two busy entrepreneurs, and how do we navigate that work? People say work-life balance, but it's kind of really, you know, I don't know if that work-life balance is really a true statement, but it's more of like, how do we create the time for ourselves to detach from the business and work on our relationship? And now being married, we got married in June 2024. So now we're married. Now, it comes its own challenges within itself. And, really being a couple that is dependent on each other, and kind of learning that more self, you know, within myself, who I really am and who I want to be, the leader I want to be, not just for my business, but for the relationship and for the future family that we're excited to start building. And being that, father figure is going to be a really big challenge when those days come. But, I think that's been probably one of the biggest ones on the personal development side. And then if I had to pick one within the business, it's, being, I've had my failures for sure, but, really kind of honing in on our SOPs, our standard operating procedures, and setting the standard, and really myself like abiding by it, not letting people like scoot around like, oh, this is how the grilled chicken is supposed to be. Here's the recipe, and then letting training the people on them, and then they kind of take it over, and then it kind of morphs into a little bit of their own program. And it's like, no, 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 like it's built this way because it comes out perfect every time, and there's a recipe for this for a reason, and we need to stick to this recipe. If this chicken is grill marked with its 2 diamond, good looking grill marks, to what seasoning goes on there, how long does it marinate for, how long does it cook in the oven, what temperature, is there steam and water being injected into that, so that the end product is a nice juicy chicken breast. Because chicken breast, as you and I both know, Justin, can turn out very dry and overcooked really quick. And so, that's something that our customers are accustomed to. That's why they've moved to us other than other vendors. And, that was, me and myself being like, this is the process. This is how we do it. And it doesn't change. Like we can change things as we go, but we need to do it together, and making sure that the end result doesn't change. And so that's where kind of just building the team, building that trust within them. And, this is how we do things, not just because of a good quality product, but because we're governed by USDA, which has very strict guidelines. And, our next business hurdle is going to be another level of standardizations and guarantees, with being, going for the SQF license or oversight, which just entails a lot more work within itself, and so as you know.
Yeah, this is a big deal. I'm gonna anchor this, and then I'm gonna say some things, and then I'm gonna talk to Mark about it and the audience. So we're gonna sort of just bear with me, guys. I'm gonna take you on a journey. So one of the things that I don't even know how to explain it, but that why there's a couple things why Mark's important in my life, in my journey, in my walk in life. Okay. There's also and from a purpose standpoint on a universal level. The second part is Mark is one of the reasons I asked him to come back on here. As I've been reflecting on life and a lot of silence that I talk about when I went through start 40 days, 40 nights while I was doing regeneration the last 13 months, or during those 13 months, September through October of 23 to 24, and walking every day with God and Jesus. One of the things that occurred to me about Mark as I reflected on my life and individuals that came into my life is his discernment. Okay. It's what we're called to do in our spirituality as Christians, is we're supposed to seek truth and have discernment. Okay. I just want to also say the things that for me that Mark, he wrote, there isn't a Saint Mark. He was around with Jesus. He is not one of the apostles, but also like Luke, who's not one of the apostles, he did write part of the Bible, okay? But the virtue of Mark, I think, is the important, all the way back then. It is probably the stemming of Mark's name now, but Saint Mark was known for courage, devotion to family, mercy, truthfulness, and diligence, okay? Those are the 5 virtues that everyone knows Saint Mark for. It's what and especially if I looked at while I was in seminary, that's what came up when Mark was brought up as one of the writers of the books of the Bible. And we sort of, why were the apostles chosen? Why weren't Mark and Luke chosen? Well, their purpose was different. Their pressure was different. Their discomfort was different. They served a greater purpose in many ways. Okay, without being an actual apostle. But the things I just named there are all things about Mark. I also said discernment. Mark opened a lot of doors for me, definitely as my journey and I went through my own dark night. Mark anchored both business and values that at the time were necessary seeds that I couldn't hear or allow light in or water or whatever, because I was in making such bad decisions, really suffering from what was going on in my life in terms of why and trying to have understanding. So Mark, that's important. I think discernment. So let's talk about this specifically. You move very well through your business. You spend a lot of time in due diligence, aka discernment. Did everyone just pick up what just happened there? The marketplace is no different than the spiritual place. We do the same things to make sure our relationships are kosher and will actually lead to good in the world. But if we think about it as discernment instead of an actual due diligence, we add a layer of things onto it that I think Mark does. Mark, do you want to talk about this, how you sort of make the decisions on growth, how you walk forward, the decision-making process that goes on?
Yeah. That, actually, I didn't know all that stuff about Saint Mark, so I'm glad you kind of put that out there, because I really want to, that kind of really speaks to me as well. And, kind of as I look at my life, like, looking at those attributes and kind of what are my strengths, kind of like can definitely hit a lot of those check boxes, and, excited to hit some more of those. But yeah, discernment is super important in not only a business and entrepreneurial life, but I also feel it's important in, everybody's life, whether you're working for somebody else or yourself, But, one of the things that we do when we go to make a decision is really kind of, we try to, think of what could happen, what are the things that need to happen for it to be able to be successful, and what are all the steps that are put in there, and if all those things, and then does it align with what our vision is, what our goals, does it get us closer to our goals as a company? Not just does it bring in revenue, because everything we do, we know we're going to make some money and we know it's going to bring in revenue, but is it really going to go in line with what our brand is? Is it going to go in line with what our production capabilities are, and something that we really want to kind of invest in? So there's a lot of factors, especially now with where we are now in business, being a USDA wholesale food manufacturer. It's not just like a restaurant where you can create a special, put it on the menu. Here's the prep that you guys got to do, and then we'll do 20 or 30 orders tonight. It's something where we're talking about doing thousands, if not tens of thousands of units for an item. And how do you scale something like that, and how do you get the staffing trained like that, and how do you get the equipment like that, and what is all these little minute steps. And then you go on another level within our USDA. What are all the USDA steps and guidelines that we have to abide by that? And does that fit within our model? Do we have to change some of our documentation? And if all those things are worth it, and we think that and it's something that we think we can replicate, and not only provide value to one customer, but we can perfect it with this one customer, and then really build it and bring on more customers with that one product, or those 2-3 products, then that's something that we'll pull a trigger on and do. But one thing we've learned, and in the beginning we were like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, and oh my gosh, this looks good. Like, this guy wants this soup done, and he wants these chicken cutlets and these chicken Parmesan fingers done. And you're like, whoa, holy shit, like, what are we doing now? We're doing so many different things. We're not able to really streamline our processes. And at that level where we're kind of just getting going, and your staff is like, what the fuck's going on? We're doing all these different things. To now we're kind of like, here's how we do all of our chicken, here's how we do all of our steak. And then that builds into this one chicken product can go into a dozen different things, build-in sauces, different ingredients, cross-utilization of ingredients. All these little things are all decision factors for making the ultimate decision of what we're going to do. And is this product the right one? The biggest thing we've hurdled right now is a new facility. We're in a small facility now currently, but we need to be in a facility where we're much larger and can take on, not just the current volume we're doing, but also, 10x that. And so that was a big decision of, what facility do we want? What are the needs of it? What are we willing to do, and what are we not willing to do, in the sense of like TI work and stuff. And so those were some big, dollar amount decisions that we had to make, and and gamble on too. Is part of that is which is a scary thing for us. But we know we can do it. We believe in ourselves, and we believe in our team. And so, and which another point, our team is, deciding, is this person the right person for the right job? And is he someone that can be with us, and he can grow, or he or she can grow with us and take on more. And so those are all, decisions that every day we have to decide on and pull a trigger. And sometimes they're not the right decisions. And that's part of the risk, and the, wearing the hat that I wear and my partner wears. It's ultimately, it falls back on us. And it's, if it doesn't work out, it's where, the trigger is always, or the, trigger is always pointed at us. So whether it's good or bad, and a lot of times it's bad, and it's like, okay, but knowing that, hey, this, I always think it's, it's not a failure. It's a lesson to learn from and make better. So we're not failing. We're learning. We're constantly learning and developing. And like, okay, we went this route with this product, but it wasn't really successful, but we know it can be. And let's try to rework, and let's try to look at things and develop it in a successful program. I mean, we've done that multiple times. And so knowing that we have that confidence to do that kind of work and to put that time and effort in that others aren't willing to is really what's going to make us stand out and be those go-to food manufacturers for a lot of our customers.
Yeah, I want to talk about something, and this is not to pick on anyone. So I just like to live in truth with a capital T. And I think part of what I want to let everyone know is try to live there. I've gotten a few comments recently how easy it is to mass produce food. You're only producing one or two recipes. Well, that's not true in hospitals. That's not true in long-term care. There's a lot of diversity there. So I get what you guys are saying, but anytime you go to a hospital or a long-term care home or even a senior living facility or long-term care or whatever, long-term living, senior living, retirement living, look at the menus. They have to rotate every so often. You have to have diversity, and there's a lot of dietary needs because individuals didn't live a proper food lifestyle before. So those diets and all the variety of them are very hard because certain foods can't go into certain diets. Okay. That's one. Number two, why I'm going to ask this, why I bring this up, because I don't even know, we started to talk about it on the last one. The USDA process, the labels, the ability to get inspected, the paperwork, having to go through consultants, having to go through creating ingredient labels, having to get them not passed, redo them, have your USDA inspector in your facility, build a relationship with someone new, wait in line until they can send someone to you. There's all these things. I just primed the pump. I want Mark to specifically talk about it because when I said discipline before for Mark and diligence, this is part of what we're talking about here. Discernment. It means the ability to grind it out because he knows he'll do it. Why do most people not succeed? Why do you think, oh, you're only doing one item? It's so easy. You just can't sell that one item. That's why it doesn't sell. No, it's because most people can't do this, which requires them to sell out of their state or stop selling directly to one person. So let's talk about that, Mark. Does that make sense?
Yeah, with like the USDA and what that entails.
Yeah, the grind that you went through was a long grind for you. I think maybe 18 months.
It was, and that was, yeah, man. Looking back at that, that was a grind. That was a lot of stress. That was a lot of money that I put not just in time, but actual, put in writing checks to these companies of, just getting the oversight and sometimes not having that money and, being like, okay, learning that a lot of these bigger companies that do it, they do it because it is expensive and it takes a lot of energy to do. And a lot of them hire out, third party companies and spend tens of thousands of dollars to build out the program. Well, I didn't have that money. So I had to bootstrap it and, do like studying sessions and after this is all after the work day, right? So it's not like I went out and Friday night I'm going out and hanging out with the buddies and doing stuff. It's, go to the gym, do what I need to do personally. Then it's get home, eat dinner, and then you study. And then you hop on the online classes and do all that because I knew that getting this license was going to open up so many doors. And I think that's where I believe, Justin, that's where you and I are kind of really, our relationship really kind of, where you were at and where I was at, and the phone calls that you and I had of, hey, I'm stuck in this position. What do I do, or how do I navigate through this? You didn't always give me the answers. Very seldom did you, but you're like, hey, this is more so what you got to do. Think of it this way, and go here and let kind of being the director or like the not the director, but the composer of like, hey, point you in this direction. So that's something that the USDA was, just knowing that all that work was going to pay off in the end. And so I just kept at it for, almost 18 months. And so, and that's really kind of, and we're now at the point where we're seeing all these doors open up and the abilities that we can do kind of really become, the flowers are starting to blossom and pollinate different flowers to where we can expand and grow, and and customers are seeing that and being like, holy cow, these guys are doing this, this, and this. Like, okay, let's have them do, our soups. Let's have them do our chicken, our meatballs. And so, that USDA, having that USDA capability is, a lot of bigger companies do it, not so many small companies. And so that's where we're seeing that small niche market and really kind of develop. So
It's important, the customized USDA thing. And this is where I want to emphasize for everyone. We are given things to give them back, and we don't know when. But in Mark's scenario, he had all the pieces he needed. He was struggling. He was hitting a growth roof. In his mind, he's thinking it's a financial problem. When he comes to me, he's like, it's a financial problem. I just need more money to grow it, marketing, advertising, put guys on the street selling my food. And I'm like, dude, like, if you're going to spend money, put it into the USDA. And why? Because what he can sell now on a greater scale and a greater level with Mark's skill that he got from doing FitTrax originally now led to Sous Chef. Why does it appeal to a greater crowd? Because he went through the trials and tribulations that you have to go through. You cannot, you have to be in the middle of your USDA process as a business if you're wanting to co-pack yourself, or in the FDA or whoever's regulating your thing. And if you don't have USDA to that level, you need to seek something like a Silicur audit or a SQF, a greater level. So there's a higher level of standard being monitored in your facility at a greater level. Why does that matter? It's not only that it's a certification to do business, it's an actual thing that you now have a standard that's higher than before that you naturally can hold your company and its employees to. It's important because then that's a stronger foundation, a taller foundation to build a business off of, period, all the way around. Does everyone see that? You want more business. It's about spending the money where the deficit is. We had a call recently. Everyone will hear this by the time this episode comes out, with a PR company. Why is PR important? Well, it's not marketing, it's not advertising, and it's not sales. Okay. All three of those things are different. And so is PR. Why do I say that? Because as an entrepreneur, as someone, when you're in the game a long time and someone comes along and needs help in the normal society thing, or what's being thrown at them is, you need to go sell more. You're not selling enough. Hit the road harder. Hit the pavement, man. It's not actually the answer. The answer is, what am I selling? How can I make it more attractive? And how can I use it as a way to grow my business to a higher standard? Period. Ask questions. Don't give answers, because I don't have the answers for Mark. I ask questions. I'm like, I think this will help you. Can I go through it with you? No. This is the entrepreneur. You need to go. This is going to be a vital part of your business. You need to know it like the back of your hand. You're going to need to spend it. And then he's like, really? It's going to take 6 more months. Grind it out, dude. I promise. It's going to be one of the most amazing things in your arsenal. Why? Because I knew Mark was a chef. I knew he was already arming himself as an entrepreneur and all the skills that it takes to be in business, accounting, salesmanship, procurement, or advertising, marketing, internet sales, branding, social media, regular marketing. So many dynamics that blows your mind how much skills we gain as an entrepreneur in such a short period of time by, what did Mark say? Going home and now educating ourselves even more. We go to school 24/7. We have to, or we die. Period. So that's the diligence also. That's the discernment. That's the staying in the grind. But what happens is we need to just go search and be willing to listen and take a gamble in the right direction. We still have to filter through discernment. We still have to pray over it, ask someone else, filter it around, take our time with it. But ultimately, sometimes those ideas are the catalysts themselves that'll get us what we want. And guess what? Mark, for the most part, didn't have to hire a salesperson through this transition to USDA. He was able to find a partnership. Now they equally have skin in the game. That's a better deal, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of the, back in the day when we were doing it, or when I was starting out, like, I had to make that decision of, what do I want to do? I'm sitting here I'm a chef, but I got a catering company and I'm doing these meals online. Like, what path am I going to go? Where is this direction going to do? Am I going to be a caterer, or am I going to do a production kitchen? And what does that production kitchen entail? And that's where we really saw the big, massive growth potentials coming in. So the that was something that we had to kind of overcome. It was that decision, and that's where I decided, I'm going to go down this path of being a production kitchen because I can see the potential there. And what does that entail? A lot harder work. Not a lot of people are doing it. So that tells me that there's going to be a lot more opportunities there because I'm willing to go down the path of, most resistance. And, it was a lot harder work, but it's going to be a bigger payout. And I know that's something that is still coming.
One of the things I love about particularly individuals or creatives or business entrepreneurs that go in towards this direction, or they're a company and they decide to go into their own production and commissary, or they're a restaurant and they're building franchises or corporate stores and they build their own commissary. It's a very brave path and it's not a normal business model. And it takes a very strong entrepreneur to handle the amount of orchestration because it is the orchestration of a restaurant, but with way more oversight, way more regulation, way more priority of making sure the weight, the amount, the volume is exact because pennies and dollars lost on a massive scale can be heartbreaking when you see it, especially if you do care about giving your employees and that could have been their bonus. So that this is a very brave path. It takes a very special human. It's not easier, but in order to build it, you have to build relationships. You have to be willing to start off knowing what you're good at. And if you're a chef and wanting to go in this, I recommend it because the skills to do it are awesome. If you're a chef that's really good at scaling your recipes and can get them into tens of thousands or gallons, you're in the wrong industry in your restaurant. And if you're in a restaurant, you need to figure out how to build a bunch of your restaurants so you can get into commissary work and outsource it because that skill is a special skill. Scaling recipes to that level takes a chemistry, a math, an understanding of the way the science works when it comes to food on a whole greater level. So I just emphasize that. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. And you kind of touch base on that, like the commissary kitchen concept, that's where, my first vision was being a commissary for other people and myself. But then you kind of grow into it and you're like, okay, is that the right model I want? And then I was like, nope, don't want that model because I don't want to be doing all these little projects for all these different people. And then it's constantly changing and everything. You're just like, oh my God, there's just a bunch of headaches to where, we focus on our products. We focus on, like I just mentioned earlier, like if we're going to take a new product on, is that going to be something that we can grow, scale? Does it have the numbers and the volume that we need? And that's where we make those decisions to grow. And a lot of commissary kitchens don't always have success. And so that's where we have to really decide if the commissary kitchen is what we want. And because some commissary kitchens don't pan out. And that's, some commissary kitchens come to us saying, hey, we can't do this. Can you guys do this for us? And so.
Perfect. I think that, one of the things that we just discussed is, looking at the model, understanding it. You try to do too many things for too many people. Even in any business, it's not going to work out well for you. Know what you're good at, work with people within your industry to help complement each other. If you need bread and you're in a restaurant and you're pinched for making your own bread, there's probably a local food entrepreneur, baker, or someone that might be able to do it for you. These are things that I'm just bringing up just because it was brought up, but you can build a book of business by building relationships like that, and they go both ways. I'm going to close everyone out here real quick. Mark, thank you for everything you said. I do want to give you a chance after this to say anything that you want to say and quick close out, everyone. And I'm going to let you do the closing. Excuse me. And just let anyone know that anything that you think might be beneficial to them or anything that you wanted to cover that I might not have talked about today. Please go ahead and cover that. I just want to emphasize this to everyone. You have to understand that sometimes the skills and that we've been given are not for the trajectory that we're on. That the capacity for what we've now been given and are capable of is beyond what we can imagine. The level by which Mark will achieve is something because he changed his model, the volume, the impact, the amount of employees he will have influence over, the jobs created, the people he will help by his standards for food and ingredients, and his knowledge of culinary skills where he can use his skills and not have to use artificial things to make up for his lack of skills. Mind you, there are certain exceptions within what I just said. But that's what we're talking about here. You need to understand that the equipping of who you are throughout your life and the trials and tribulations and the things that seem hard, they are hard not because you're not supposed to go that way. They are hard because the thing that they will forge you into or the thing they will forge your business into is greater. And a business that sits on what it did well today or yesterday and stays there will not be in business much longer. It may take years, but the business started decaying today. It's important. How do I know? I've seen it in my own businesses. I saw where the culture of yesterday's past became such an emphasis and the foundation by what we sat on today that it made us have the inability to move the Titanic or pivot anymore. We cut the rudder right out from underneath us. That's what I'm talking about. So why do I bring it up? Don't make the same lessons I do. Why do I invest in Mark? Why do I believe in what he's doing? Because there needs to be someone out there doing it from his point, with his knowledge, with his credibility. So why the USDA? It's important that he did it now while he could in his business. And before he started scaling, that this was something already built in the foundation to scale. Why do I say that? Because we're in such a rush to scale that we don't always go back and look at the foundation or what's missing from it. Can we always see it? No. What does that require? Mentorship. Anyway, Mark, it's yours if you want to close this out, and then we'll rock on.
Yeah, no, those are all crucial key points. I think you said it all really well. I think it's just important that keep your vision in line and, your goals, keep chasing your goals, keep growing your goals and keep growing never stop growing yourself during the journey, but learn to love the journey is going to be an important one. And I love what I do and what we're doing, both self and professional, and, building the teams, building the business, building my marriage, our family. And so we're just enjoy the process, be happy, and live life.
Where can they find you online? Where can they find you guys
Yeah,
online?
you guys
If
can,
they want co-packing done, they're out there in the business trying to figure out how to do co-packing. Yeah, how do they do it?
All of our co-packing, go to catalystfoods.com. That's where our team will come in and you let us know what products you guys got or you're thinking of, and we can build that and start going and doing things from there. So it's important that we can do everything that our clients want. And so that's what Catalyst Foods is here to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. You guys know someone out there that might be looking for co-packing. Send them to the website first. Do what Mark needs to do. They're in a specific side of co-packing. USDA, everyone can guess, that involves meat products, specifically land animals for the most part. The USDA and FDA cross in funny ways. Like alligator is a FDA item, not an USDA, even though we eat it. So those are the things I'm talking about. Fishing's FDA, USDA is not fish. So this is just some of the things for everyone to think about. But as you have some discernment of your own, the thing that I do recommend. Research what products in your company are doing really well. Look at what products might be able to be sold to an audience in a packaged good. If it's sauces and things like that and jarring, that requires one type of co-packer. If it's an FDA type product or a non-meat product, that's a different one. If it's beef jerky, it requires a beef jerky facility. The reason I said I've done all of these. And USDA, Mark has ability to do a lot there, but look it up, understand what falls under each. Mark can do FDA also, I'm sure, based on his certification, but it's worth looking at. And if you have things, meals, things that you want to bring into a commercial setting or into, meaning that I do it B2B versus B2C, business to business, meaning I'm selling it to a Walmart, a Kroger, or Publix, whatever, Whole Foods, like it's necessary to pass through a manufacturer that has the certifications that you need if you want to do that, unless you want to become your own commissary. But in the meantime, I still recommend taking a stepping point so you learn the business at the very least. And a lot of people will find it's better to have a good partner like Mark than take that on, and then you focus on what your restaurants and businesses do in the advertising and marketing that made that product successful in the first place, and you turn up the volume there. If that makes sense to everyone. So I do highly recommend everyone, there's taking good products and spinning them off into their own restaurants, own food trucks, own concepts. I get that too. But there's also taking sauces, meals, concepts, and taking a look at it, and no different than what Boston Market did. Boston Market's surviving off their direct to consumer from the grocery store business. Okay. Not their direct to consumer in their stores. Everyone can see there's no more stores yet set. Boston Market's still selling in hotel lobbies, in the frozen food and in grocery stores. That's why I say it, because sometimes we make mistakes and we make bad decisions. Diversify your business and know what you're doing well, and find a partner to help you do it better in that particular lane, and then support each other in the effort to grow that product. Because both win in that scenario. So do the vendors, so do the suppliers, so do the designers designing the box, so do the people creating the trays, and all the jobs created amongst it. So why invest in Mark? Why spend my time? Mark's going to have way more influence on someone in the world. So when we talk about from a biblical standpoint, I only have so much time. It's my most valuable resource. So if I'm going to spend it with someone, I have to choose who's going to make the most impact sometimes when I have none and my life was falling apart. Business grew from COVID, making a lot of bad decisions in business because we were using old methods to try to deal with new problems in food and logistics and farming and all the issues that happened during COVID, and it didn't work. And so, but what did I know? I knew that if I had any time and any energy to grow the world around me that wasn't in my business, in case things went bad, Mark was the person to do it. Why? It's no different than, I'm not claiming to be Jesus, but I'm using the same discernment. I had to walk by all the others in need and go to him. Why? Because where I was leaving, the hole I was going to leave potentially, Mark was the one that came to me out of all the people that I knew if I passed on as much as I could to him in a very short period of time, he would carry the torch. Was I the end all be all? No, I'm not the savior. I'm not Jesus. I'm not the one there for the long run. I'm just a temporary quote unquote catalyst, pun intended, for him to move forward. And that's okay too. But in that moment, as I was losing something, I was able to pass it on to someone to do something better with, better than I did. Thank you everyone for listening in. I love you guys. Pass on the episodes.
Thank you, Justin, and
yeah, absolutely.
Happy to help anybody out. So
yeah,
that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark, and I love you guys. Love you, Mark, for sure. Definitely played a big role, planted a lot of seeds that eventually the audience will find out, and Mark will find out as well, and the growth in my life, my family, and things that are going on for me. And all those things happen because of abundance, and because when I was going down bad paths, Mark helped give me a lot of clarity. It necessarily wasn't along with me on the journey, just like I wasn't with him. but we played a role in each other's life. I gave something away. He gave me something in return. So thank you guys. And neither one of us probably intended to do either. We were just trying to do what we thought were best, and maybe our parents and God ingrained in us. So the abundance is way better. Our paths, our businesses, our lives are better, both of us, because of it. Thank you guys. I love you. We're out.
Thank you.